my neighbor having very loud sex would make for a great opening to this podcast, John?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to, seeing as how we're making it that way.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't see you there, loyal listeners and or viewers, if we decide to put this on a YouTube channel. Hi, welcome.
We're definitely putting it on the YouTube channel. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and all gentle folk, to the Ludic Loungecast. I am one half of your hosts, John Soares, and with me, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend.
Where?
The ass, because he's sitting on it.
Accurate.
Antonicus Gluteus Maximus IV.
Could I also say the balls? Because technically I'm kind of sitting on them too. I got to readjust myself as we speak.
Are they that big?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they really are, John.
Say howdy to your balls to the people, Anthony.
Howdy to your balls to the people, Anthony.
That's probably the most ridiculous one I've done.
Pretty much. And speaking of ridiculous things, John, one ridiculous thing that I want to mention is how great and how ridiculously great the San Diego Padres are doing right now, hence why I'm sporting my custom-made San Diego Padres jersey.
Oh, man.
Yes. And a segment that we like to call
Yay Sports. Yay Sports.
So as we speak, loyal listeners, right now, the Padres are only behind the Los Angeles Dodgers by, I would say, about 5 games, roughly. This is at time of recording, which means this is the beginning of the beautiful series that we're going to have against the Dodgers, and hopefully we come out looking a lot better than our last series against the Dodgers, John.
I haven't been following the sports, unfortunately, but any instance where the Dodgers will lose, I will take, seeing as how I'm a Giants fan. So,
now,
boo
John,
Dodgers,
I'm glad you mentioned being a Giants fan, John, because we just recently got into a series with the Giants and swept them.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, you're going to give me the business now, aren't you? Yep. See, look at him. He's giving me the business with his eyebrows. That's what they do. You do the other one. Come on, give me the.
I can't do the other one. I really can't. I wish I could. It's only like the left.
Me neither. I can't. Not all of us can be John Belushi.
Oh, right. R.I.P. John Belushi. And speaking
as
of
much
R.I.P.,
as his brother tries.
Speaking of R.I.P., John, R.I.P.
Yes.
to the Giants in this series that we swept them. R.I.P. to the Dodgers as we speak. I shouldn't talk too much shit because if for some reason like we get swept by the time this episode actually goes live, then I have nothing but crow to eat.
And then I will probably make you eat that crow because that'll make for good podcasting.
And speaking of good podcasting, John, thank you for coming on here. Thank you for podcasting, as always, with me.
Of course. I mean, that's what podcast partners do, right? I mean, we podcast and listen to stories about how your neighbor is apparently getting laid all the time.
All the time. Either with someone else, either they have a very successful OnlyFans account, or Jesus Christ, man, very loud, very boisterous, but good on them.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if they're still able to make money on OnlyFans after this whole debacle with Bella Thorne, I applaud them.
Right? And speaking of things of that nature, like, good Lord, John, it's not just like one time a day or anything like that. I'm talking about like 2 a.m., 7 p.m., 5 p.m. I'm just applauding the stamina of this person and or these people.
It's every PM in between?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. Have that stamina again.
Right?
If ever.
If ever. Like, good Lord. So good on them. Because, we're not here to kink shame. Here at the Ludic Loungecast, hosted by the Ludic Lounge, our motto for life is we're not here to kink shame, with only a few select ones to shame, obviously.
I thought our motto was, fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yes.
Still appropriate.
Still appropriate. Actually, very, very much so, even more appropriate, I think.
So, yeah, as the legal representative for the Ludic Lounge, I rest my case.
Now, speaking of resting the case, let's rest this topic, John.
Yes, Anthony.
What I want to talk about next, outside of our segment of Yay Sports.
Yay Sports.
Yay Sports.
Bye, Sports.
I want to talk about Superman, John.
Let's talk about Superman, Anthony.
Superman is not only a man, John, but he's a Superman.
Man, that's right, man. He's super, man.
And
That was a bad joke.
that was a pretty bad joke. If I could edit this, I would probably edit it out. But, John, you recently have been touching upon Superman and doing some rereading. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I reread something that I've kind of been working up to this like whole quarantine because something I wanted to do when things started getting hairy was I started a giant reread of Grant Morrison's entire DC career for the most part. Mostly his like individual stuff and some stuff that he collaborated on. I finally got
outside of his like Sandman stuff.
Well, you're thinking Neil Gaiman.
God damn it! Yes, I was thinking Neil Gaiman.
But to be fair, it's fair to compare the two because they are part of the quote unquote British invasion of comics. They're
the Beatles of DC Comics.
In a way, I mean, when Alan Moore of
Watchmen, stop.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. Dun. I wanna hold Superman. I wanna hold Superman. I wanna hold Superman. Anyway, continue. Thank you.
We were a pretty good harmony for that,
right?
I hope it carries over in the audio.
Nope. YouTube's gonna shut that shit down like we were late on a cable bill.
God, damn it. There's that E for the week. But I finally part of the reason I wanted to do the Morrison reread and before backtrack, I'm going to backtrack so I can explain the British invasion thing. Backtrack, rewind, keep it alive, keep it fine. That's why I'm not a rapper. I have no flow.
Oh yes, John, that's why you're not a rapper.
And I am pasty white.
Hey, that didn't stop Vanilla Ice back in the day.
Or Eminem, the arguably better of those two.
Sure. Or was it Snow? Something Snow? Geez. You know what I'm talking about?
Informer.
Yes, my man. I knew you knew that one. I lick your boom down.
Oh, gee. I think he redid that song not too long ago. Somebody did a cover of that song and brought him into it.
Really?
Really. I mean, we'll look it up later so I can actually enjoy your face as that happens. But to get back on point, there's a British invasion of the comic realm that started with Alan Moore doing DC work. He did a lot of short stories, most notably, of course, is Watchmen, which was going to involve some specific characters, like Rorschach was supposed to be the Question, and Night Owl was supposed to be Blue Beetle. But the Charlton Comics characters
right. It was Blue Beetle, it wasn't Batman. Yeah.
No. It's still primarily Blue Beetle-esque because of the nature of how the costume works for Night Owl and the Owl ship, which are Ted Cord Blue Beetle staples.
And Leonard Cohen was Blue Beetle's favorite.
I guess. That's a small detail, so I've honestly forgotten. So I'm gonna have to reread Watchmen or watch that movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So Watchmen came out of the Charlton Comics characters that DC didn't let Alan Moore do, so he created new ones that were kind of inspired by those characters and had more reign. And it led to a whole mess of other creator rights issues that I'm not really going to get into, but
because it's a huge muck of shit.
It's a huge mess, and arguably still on the aftermath of it is still ongoing, considering how much DC is still mining Watchmen,
right?
In various forms. But that's neither here nor there. But because Alan Moore proved to be so popular of a writer, and his stories proved so immensely strong. I mean, so much so that we're still talking about so many of them today. DC started headhunting from the UK, and the two bigger, some of the bigger ones were Peter Milligan, Neil Gaiman, and Grant Morrison.
And it sounds like there's total anarchy in the UK.
Yeah, especially when it comes to the written page, because boy, did they came and fucked shit up. You appreciated that I ran with it, huh?
I did, and That's how I know you picked up my reference but didn't acknowledge it. But
Well, I mean, they did. I mean, they changed the face of that industry. I mean, you don't get Vertigo comics without these British creators. I mean, the majority of what Vertigo was putting out, but like in the early 90s, was from the British the UK creators. You get Garth Ennis on Preacher, and arguably that leads to him on Punisher and his Hitman stuff. Neil
Gaiman. It's almost as if they were saying hello, hello from a place called Vertigo.
Oh God, I don't know what to do with you some days.
Well, you're supposed to set me up with the Jesus Christ, where I hit one of our other taglines.
No, I'm not giving you that satisfaction.
John, this is like our third YouTube video that's possibly going to go up, which I forgot about. Hence, I had to change my legal name back to my alias name for the Zoom channel, which I hope doesn't pop up.
It shouldn't. I don't think so. But Jesus Christ.
No. But I understand your confusion. I'm waiting for the live audience just to go, but I understand your confusion. And I just stand up, do one of these, do one of those, and then I sell out for millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, and that's just from the t-shirt sales alone, right?
Absolutely.
So proud of you.
Thanks, John.
Back on topic. Landing the plane. So Morrison's been working for DC more or less like the past like almost 30, 40 years. Since like since the late 80s. His Arkham Asylum graphic novel proved to be part of the inspiration for the at least the first Arkham Asylum video game.
Right.
He had very popular initial runs on Animal Man and Doom Patrol. The Doom Patrol TV show pulls a lot from his tenure on the title. Among the original one and subsequent runs from people like Rachel Pollack and good folk like that. He did stuff on JLA for Marvel. He did some Fantastic Four stuff, some big X-Men stuff, but arguably all his DC stuff is somewhat interconnected in some ways. I mean, outside of playing within the same sandbox of a shared universe,
right?
He brings up a lot of themes and recurring characters throughout his work, which was something I was learning about earlier this year. So I decided, well, let's start from the start and see what I can catch, and I've caught a lot.
So it sounded like you started from the bottom and now you're there.
Yeah, almost, pretty much. I mean, I've gotten through like the really, really big stuff, and now I'm in the Twilight era, which is just like
so no Robert. You're in the Twilight Zone, John.
This is a madhouse. I feel like I'm being cloned. I mean, I think that's the title of the episode. Into the Twilight Zone.
Into the Twilight Zone. I was gonna go with Anthony plays the greatest hits, but that works too.
I mean that we can have a parenthetical or a colon. Stepping into the Twilight Zone. Anthony plays the hits.
Yes, I like that actually. Episode title.
I'm just teeing these off for you. Just
pretty much, and I'm just interrupting you. Obviously,
I know.
As our loyal listeners at home watching and or listening really just love this graphic detail you're giving them, because this is actually really good information for those in the who are in the uninformed. I'm just fucking it all up.
I mean, I'm working with it. I'm trying. I'm hip.
No, that's what I'm saying. You're doing the great job of informing the public, and I'm sitting here just fucking it all up.
And well, it's part of your charm. Plus, you're also learning yourself.
Absolutely.
So while everything was interconnected, one of the other reasons that I really wanted to go from a top to bottom reread was that I wanted to reread his New 52 era Superman. He started Action Comics all over again when DC rebooted with the New 52. And
what, John?
Yes.
My biggest gripe against that cover, I love the cover.
Which of Action Comics #1 where he's running?
Yeah, the one where he is lifting up the Rock, I think it was. Not the wrestler, the Rock, obviously, like an actual boulder he's lifting up.
Yeah, you're half right. The original Action Comics #1 is a picture of Superman holding a car about to smash it into a rock.
Yes, that one I know of. I'm talking about when they did the reboot and they did the homage, quote unquote, to Action Comics #1. One you sent me where Superman's in like jeans and a shirt with a shitty cape. He's like holding up a rock, which is like supposedly an homage to it.
Yeah, well, that was a promo piece that I guess eventually wasn't used as a number one. It's the cover of the first collection.
That's yes.
Yeah. So no, I get what you're saying, and I understand now that I know that you're talking about that particular cover. I'm kind of in agreement. But it was from what. Because I think I was there at Comic-Con when DC first unveiled the full plans of the New 52, because that was 2011. It's almost 10 years ago. I know. So, like, for a little bit more context, the story Flashpoint, which featured the Flash and introduced the Thomas Wayne version of Batman, which killed people, reset the entire DC.
I like how you suddenly threw that in there. You know, the one that kills people.
Yeah, I know, because people want Batman to kill, but they fail to realize the concept that an 8-year-old made up.
I mean, pretty much.
In context of the universe, at least.
Yeah, pretty much.
So when they rebooted, they essentially started everything over, except they did it not really great. Especially with Superman, for like Batman, they said everything is kind of supposed to fit within this 10-year timeline. And the stuff that's really popular is still canon. Everything that's shit is no longer, canon.
Yes.
So with Superman, it got even more complicated than that, because they at that point, Superman was married to Lois Lane. That was no longer in canon. Everything that was from post Crisis on Infinite Earths to right before Flashpoint was out the window. Right. So Action Comics was ostensibly supposed to be about the introduction of the superheroes to the world, starting with Superman.
Now, John, do you see my share screen?
Yes, I do. That is the original Action Comics number 1.
That is the original Action Comics number 1 that John confused me for, which I love this cover. I love everything about this. It's one of my favorite portrayals of Superman. Now, do you see on the right of this, or is it just Action Comics number 1?
I'm sorry. Say that. Can you repeat the question?
You see the New 52 Superman Action Comics cover that I was talking about, where he's in the jeans.
No. I think you can, just Google Action Comics number 1. Oh wait, it's up there on the top.
Okay, so you see it. Essentially.
Or you see that little tab, where it gives you all the options for cover, Superman, all that stuff.
Right.
New 52. That it just hit.
Wow, I should have planned this ahead of time.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Right. This is the cover.
Yeah, that's the cover.
That we're talking about, which is is the shitty homage to Action Comics number 1.
Yeah, but it wasn't what was used for the publication of the first issue. That's that third image where it's him running away.
Right.
So, I mean, all of this is to kind of preface what that run did. So Morrison is very famous for essentially, you can equate it to Dark Knight Returns because it's supposed to be an end of Superman story. His book, All-Star Superman with Frank Quitely. And that story is well regarded as a pinnacle of the character. So everybody had very skewed expectations toward this run on Action Comics, which they thought was going to be, very much a, friendly, your friendly neighborhood Superman, But what you got in Action Comics, arguably, when I read it at the time, I was a little indifferent. Because I was expecting All-Star Superman,
right?
Still, kind of this homage to traditional Chris Reeve-esque Superman. But the Superman of the New 52 Action Comics was younger. He wasn't as strong. He didn't have the costume. It was just jeans and a t-shirt, which honestly,
super lame.
I disagree.
No,
I think it's no. I disagree. I think
lame.
No. Okay, I'm going to use the run to prove you wrong. Okay. All right. Are you ready for this? Are you going to be dazzled? You're going to be.
We're talking about, again, folks at home, this particular costume.
A costume that I've done in real life, too, by the way.
Oh, I know, and you look smashingly good in it. But, John, this is a shitty costume.
No, it isn't. I'll tell you why. So there is a Zero issue, which is actually depicted right here on your screen, Anthony. That issue contains a story called The Boy Who Stole Superman's Cape.
Okay.
And it is before Superman's official debut. So he gets put into a situation where he's knocked out because he's not as strong. We're talking, early days. So he's only able to really run fast and jump really high. He can't fly yet. So he gets hit by a missile launcher, gets knocked out, and a kid steals his cape.
Damn kids these days.
I know, but you find out that this kid is part of a abusive household. That his father's an alcoholic, beats on him and his brother, and he comes home to his drunk father, trying to, commit some act of violence against his sibling, and he says no. The boy who stole the cape, he's like, you're going to stop this, and he has the cape tucked into his shirt, like any kid has done over 80 years of this character's existence. And the cape's indestructible, so the father tries to stab the kid, the knife breaks, and the kid steals his brother and runs away and tells him, with this on, we can feel powerful. Nothing can stop us, which is something that I think any kid can relate to. My fiance has told me, sometimes it's good to hold the superhero pose when you're feeling down, because you just feel like you're a hero.
Yeah, you put your chest out, makes you feel good. Yeah.
Now, imagine seeing Superman, the first superhero, in essentially an outfit most people around the world would probably wear: jeans and a t-shirt. And you just stuff the cape in your shirt and you're Superman. You're ready to go. How is that a bad thing, Anthony? Tell me how that is a bad thing.
It's a bad thing because I don't want a superhero to look exactly like me with jeans and a t-shirt. I want them in full superhero regalia as Superman does in Action Comics #1, and I want him to look outstanding. I don't want him looking like he is not only going to stop a moving train from running over somebody who's tied to a railroad track, but he's also after that going to fix my toilet at 3 o'clock.
I mean, in some ways, the guy that fixes your toilet is still your hero if you need your toilet.
Yeah, I understand that. And that person is my hero.
Yeah. So
when he leaves, I always sing, "There goes my hero."
Watch him as he goes.
Exactly. Yeah. But John, what I'm trying to say is I want my superhero to be a superhero and look like a superhero. And I don't want him to look like he just rolled out of bed and punched Galactus in the face.
I'm still okay with that. Maybe that's just a different thing. We're just going to have to agree to disagree here, because I still think making it, an everyday thing is better than just, saying you have to have a specific uniform. It's like anybody can be a hero at a moment's notice. I think
but the superheroes, the king, if you will, of all superheroes, Superman, if you want to go down this route, should not look like everybody else.
Well, let's go back to your Action Comics #1, the OG, not the New 52.
Yeah, and that very smart shirt or suit with his very beautiful lapels.
I mean, sure.
Come on, John. The pinstripes.
I know the pinstripes. I like a good pinstripe every now and then. It's not all about your Padres, Anthony. But I mean, if you go back to that original story, he's very much, fighting for the little people, fighting against, corporate, corrupt landlords, which he does in the New 52 one as well.
Yes. And what is he doing in Action Comics 1, John? While fighting these landlords and these unfair people and these gangsters and mobsters, he's wearing a very beautiful Superman regalia with the trunks on the outside.
I understand that, Anthony, but that's also a thing of the time, which I've explained before, which was a circus strongman recall. I think a more modern perspective is, let's just put him in an everyday outfit.
It's lazy, is what it is, John.
I completely disagree.
It's lazy. Let's put him in fucking.
It's making him of the people.
Let's put him in some fucking Levi's and a shitty little side cape. Like, if you're gonna do that,
That cape is his baby blanket, Anthony.
Don't give me that side cape then. Just go straight up t-shirt and jeans, which I don't agree with, but at least do it that way. Don't give me like little tease of a shitty side cape.
Well,
I'm holding up my mic so I can give you that much more motion.
They did it. Oh, funny enough, they did that later on in New 52 anyway, where they just put him in. Yeah. Because the problem is that with the New 52 and Superman is that timing got weird. So Action Comics was 5 years in the past, but the Superman title was supposedly in the present. So eventually, once Morrison left, they combined the streams, but you had to deal with that.
Why you should just run DC already. Like, what is it with that bullshit?
I mean, the way they're going now seems to be the right way. They're kind of focusing less on structured continuity and focusing on character-driven stories, which is what I would want them to do anyway if I was in charge anyway.
I think the time for continuity as far as, episode or issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, I think the time for that, minus a few titles out there, I'm talking mainstream DC, I think the time for that is just done. It's done. It's done.
I'll give you a real world example that I just had to deal with. So my fiance's reading some stuff based off the Miss Marvel from the Avengers game. She wanted to read her books because of seeing the character in the game. So
yeah, this was Shaka Khan's cousin.
No, I know you. I appreciate you trying to bring that back. No, negativo. So she just sees it as a book with chapters. But I see it as a collection of individually published issues that connect together. So when I would say, oh, you have like 2 more issues to read, Chelsea looked at me and said, what the hell are you talking about? Because she's never had to deal with, a single issue. She thinks that a single collection was an issue.
Exactly.
So, to your point, single issues, it only caters to a certain crowd who grew up with it and are still used to it. To the more current readership, or a newer readership that's come in, either from the movies or from the games or whatever, they're not going to necessarily get it. And, that's not saying that there aren't, but I think the willingness to do it isn't as prevalent.
And I think, unless it's going to be newer stories out there, like at the time of this posting, we already went into our Commanders in Crisis review, and we talked about how it's a new thing. It's going to be out there, and that can go issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, because it's a very new title that's just happening. But when it comes to your mainstream Superman and your mainstream Batman comics or JLA, whatever have you, it's so much more difficult to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That's why the collection idea is so much better.
Yeah, because then you get to lean into the easy start that most manga have, because you just need to start at volume 1. You don't need to read 80 years worth of continuity in order to kind of get some obscure thing in whatever you're reading, which I appreciated about the Morrison's Action Comics, because even though I know you don't care for the T-shirt, Anthony, but the T-shirt is kind of used to demarcate what Superman's focusing on. So when he's focusing on the smaller things, the little people, stuff like corrupt landlords or people abusing other people in their lives, he's in the T-shirt. But when he's doing really, really big superhero stuff, the big high concept stuff, dealing with 5-dimensional devil people, he's in the super suit. So it's just like, you get to have both. You get the super
I think
suit.
Really bothers me, and now that you just talked about that, is really pressing my buttons. The reason why just the pants and shirt bugs me so much is because it reminds me of Smallville and how he refused to put on the suit.
I mean, I get the comparison, but I think there's a difference in intent. In Action Comics, it's less because it's not because the actor doesn't want to put on the fucking tights, because that's all Smallville was. And that's why they did, even though it was at a certain point, you could say it is a Superman show. It is no longer about a young Clark Kent. He is Superman only without the name.
It became the red, blue blur show. Yes.
Yeah. So at a certain point, it was just like, stop. Some people could say, stop with that bullshit. Just call it Superman. He's Superman. Put him in the cape and the tights and call it good. But that's because they never did that probably because of two things. One, the aforementioned Tom Welling did not want to put on those damn tights.
Right.
And he's been very vocal about that. He's never wanted to do that. That's not anything he's interested in. And two, it might be some complicated film rights stuff between, a division between the TV and film. So they couldn't really say anything.
Somebody save me.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hate you for that. But I mean, I think with the New 52, it is more, he had intended the shirt and jeans to be the thing, the suit. He didn't know about his Kryptonian heritage, so he can't put on a super suit he doesn't know he has available to him. That's the difference to me. And the other thing that I can appreciate about, and what I would recommend for most people about this era of Superman, is that it did what the New 52 was promising to do, to tell new things, but familiar things in new ways. There was, the Kryptonite Man gets brought back in a very fascinating way because he is a wife beater that Superman tosses out of a window. And then he comes back later, saying, "You ruined my life," and blaming Superman for everything that he did wrong. But it's a captivating villain, at least in origin-wise, because you have his perspective and how Superman somewhat slighted him, but in reality, he's just deluding himself. What I also appreciate is that everything just fit together. With Morrison's Action Comics, it was like it built up things that he paid off later on. I also appreciate it made references to things in the past. Like at one point, Superman's in a fight, and he says, "I learned how to box from the world heavyweight champion," which was a nice little homage to
Ali. Yeah,
the Superman versus Muhammad Ali book from the 70s, which is fantastic, and I completely missed that when I read it way back in 2011 to when it originally ran. So I also appreciated Superman's character a little bit. Usually it falls to the Chris Reeve model, I think, most times out of anything, where it is truth, justice, and the American way. He's more like a dad than anything. Which in the last couple year or so, I've kind of cooled on that. I don't want him to be just like this stoic father figure, and that's something I appreciated about Morrison's action, where it's clearly a younger Superman at first, but he does get tempered, but he's always kind of ready and willing to fight for what's right. And if that requires to get physical, he's game for it, but there's always and this is something that Clark ends up taking from Jor-El. It's a saying. This is a saying that Jor-El apparently always said. There's always a way, and that defines this Superman. At least Morrison's Superman, because that's something that comes up in All-Star Superman. He's always going to find a way, and he's always going to find a way to save everyone that he can. And that's what I think ultimately. Between that and the t-shirt and jeans, that's what I appreciated most, is that this Superman felt relatable in a way that I didn't get when I originally read this, and had a hard time getting in certain other incarnations of the character. And I'm saying and so a lot. I just realized that, but
a little bit.
Yeah. I really wish we could edit this now that I'm very self-conscious about it, but I'm really glad.
I'm laughing because I'm currently, as we're talking before we hopped on, John, I'm currently editing our latest Columbo files, now available to anyone out there who wants to listen to it. Currently editing the newest one, and we both say and a lot, and so I'm just cutting that sumbitch down. It's like shaving, man.
I know. And now that we're doing the video, it's going to be a little bit tricky.
No, yeah,
But
I'm not gonna edit it down. It goes, fuck it, we'll do it live, John.
yeah, I know. But I mean, I think in essence, for what I would say about this run, I think it is the perfect place for a fan to start with like very minimal understanding of Superman.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's what New 52 is supposed to be, essentially.
Yeah, and like I think if you had asked me a couple of years ago, I would have pointed you to like Mark Waid's Superman Origin, Superman Birthright that he did with artist Leinil Yu, as like a definitive starting place. But now I think if you want like a good kind of summation about how crazy Superman's world can get, but how, you know, still grounded it can be, because what Morrison's trying to do here is do what he did to Batman, where everything kind of counted. You know, right. the weird stuff back in the 60s and the 50s, you know, the gritty stuff to everything in between. But it's I'm glad that I've revisited it, you know, coming off of all of the other stuff, because it just made it more, it made it richer, you know, and I can see that. I just finished the big multiverse crossover that he did post this action run, and post his Batman run, and that tied so many things from, you know, from the Batman run to the JLA run to the Superman stuff, and this giant multiversal package that, you know, I didn't necessarily get so well, you know, even after reading Action that first time, because I didn't get Action, and I didn't feel like I got enough out of Multiversity or Batman back then, because I just didn't have the experience. I have more life experience now, and more book, you know, just comic experience in general. So it feels
sounded like that you could get no satisfaction, John.
You are really leaning into this hits thing, aren't you?
I really am.
So that's where I am, comic book wise. But I got one more other thing about Avengers, so we can get into that. But
technical difficulties.
Well, John, thanks for asking what I have going on for me this past week since our last recording. I am currently in the process of still playing Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark on my PS4. I'm just doing a lot of class upgrading and stuff like that, so I'm just doing a lot of grinding. I'm still in the midst of Valkyria 4 for my Xbox, still having a good time with that and its alternate timeline of World War II. Mm-hmm. Got through another squad story with a squad mate who always wears a mask, like a Man in the Iron Mask kind of a mask. And her name is Florier.
Oh, her name. I was expecting a Leonardo DiCaprio situation.
No, her name is Florier. And you do this little squad thing with her, and she's like super serious, and she gets partnered up with like two of these little jokesters in the squad. One of them is literally this southern dude who does bad puns. So obviously I totally love that character. Mm-hmm. And you surely and slowly find out that the reason she wears this mask is because she's a bastard child of like some royal person in Europe.
Right.
And she wears her mother's face. So because of that, she had to wear this mask in order to not shame the rich father publicly for having this affair. So because she wore this mask, he still raised her and still brought her up in society and things like that. But it was never known that she was his bastard child. So it's kind of a very sad tale, but she, you know, opens up. The premise of it is that she opens up with these other squad mates because she was very secluded, very isolated. But the happy end is that she finally opened up. She finally took off the mask that was inside of her heart, John.
And in the end, isn't that all that really matters?
It is.
Go out, love somebody today, folks.
Absolutely. Why don't we all just take off the mask of our hearts, John?
And just love one another. Stay 6 feet apart, but love each other, and just give elbow fives.
Yes, elbow fives for all, or as
Yes.
I like to call them, just elbow drops in general.
The people's elbow.
Yeah, exactly. Or
The
the
rock
macho
bottom.
elbow from the top rope.
Macho Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dig it. Elbows. Yeah. I got 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. God, he's so good in that movie.
Oh God. And he raps about it on his rap album, John.
Does he? Really?
One of his
I've
lines.
never heard the one where he's making fun of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, well, in one of his tracks, he's like, "Yeah, and I got a prime appearance in the movie Spider-Man." Yeah, I'm like, oh, Macho Man.
I mean, that's why you don't do cocaine, folks.
That whole album's fantastic. Loyal Ludiacs listening at home, after you watch our YouTube video, of course, on that little YouTube channel, type in on your little handy-dandy laptop and or smartphone device, and just type Macho Man Randy Savage rap album, and you'll see it.
You'll be given a gift.
And you will be given a gift. Absolutely, from top to bottom.
Maybe one of these days I'll recreate it.
You should. Absolutely.
I think I would lose my voice forever if I
After
did.
like 30 seconds of one rap.
Yeah, I can only do Macho Man for maybe that long.
That's what Miss Elizabeth
If
said.
even. I think you're being gracious by saying 30 seconds. I think it only goes 15.
You missed my entire joke. I said that's what Miss Elizabeth said.
Oh,
You can only do Macho Man for so long.
I'm judging you for that one.
Oh.
Judgment. It's time for judgment.
Judgment.
He can't get it up because of the cocaine.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of cocaine and PEDs, John, I'm still in the process of watching Law and Order Criminal Intent. That has nothing to do with cocaine or PEDs, but I just wanted to easily transition, obviously.
Yes, indeed. And
We're on the second. Yes. My wife and I are on the second season of it, if you will.
Yes.
The main detective, Vincent D'Onofrio, Detective Gorin, if you will, which is his character name, just met his arch nemesis of the series, Nicole Wallace, who is a brilliant, sneaky criminal who is Australian, played by somebody who is familiar to me, although I cannot figure out what her name is.
Like the actress?
Yeah, the actress. She looks very, very familiar. Like I've seen her elsewhere, but then again, I watched this series quite a bit as a youngster. So
Yeah. I have that a while too, or not a while. I have that a lot too, where it was, you sometimes you see somebody and you're just like, I know it on the tip of my tongue. I've seen this person somewhere. And
Yep.
Anthony, you have seen this person
I have seen this person.
because it's Olivia Diabo,
Yes.
who, if I'm not mistaken, so she's not who I thought she was, but she's related to somebody who I thought she was. Have you seen Timothy Dalton James Bond movie, The Living Daylights?
Of course I have, John.
Her relative, let's see what Wikipedia, her first cousin once removed on her father's side, Miriam Diabo, was the female lead in The Living Daylights.
Oh.
So that might be where in part you're getting it, is that you're mistaking Olivia Diabo for Miriam Diabo.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that because the Timothy Dalton James Bond movies are very underrated and they should be celebrated.
Incredibly so. She was also, we're going to do a little bit Columbo file type breakdown here. She was in the Conan the Barbarian sequel, Conan the Destroyer.
Oh, God. Is that the one where they're like, we ran out of money? And like the villain was like a tin-foiled rhinoceros or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Of course.
But to be honest, it's like the Conan the Barbarian, the first one is like an all-timer.
Yes.
As far
Oh, agreed. But then the second one, they're like, we ran out of money for this series.
Because we blew it all on Arnold's cocaine.
And PEDs. You see? And that's what brings it back around to my
criminal
transition.
intent.
Yeah.
She was also in Wayne's World 2.
Oh, I forgot that existed.
She's also she does some voice stuff. She was Carol Ferris in the direct-to-DVD movie Green Lantern: First Flight with your boy Chris Maloney.
Oh, God, that was a great-ass performance by Chris Maloney.
I mean, he always is like aces in everything I've ever seen him in.
That is
goes for it.
Excellent. Excellent point.
She has a voice role as Luminara Unduli in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Huh.
She's a Jedi Master.
Ooh.
I believe she might also be in the Clone Wars cartoon. Let's see if she is. She is. She has a recurring voice role of Jedi Master Luminara Unduli.
So she's a Jedi and a serial killer.
She's also Star Sapphire from Justice League. So
when I brought this topic up, I wasn't intending for us to go into a deep dive over her career.
I know. I just was just like, well, let's see where Anthony's deja vu with this actress is coming from.
I appreciated that, though. I really did.
And it's also a good plug for the Ludic Lounge presents the Columbo Files, where we do similar deep dives.
Yes,
so if you want
do,
TV history and movie history, come to the Columbo Files, ladies and gentlemen and folks.
More recently, where we just talk about Adam 12, Route 66, and for some reason, Airwolf.
Your Airwolf nostalgia quake still entertains me.
Oh man, that fucking TV show. The 80s were a hell of a time for TV, sir.
Now indeed they were. I mean, they gave us great joy. Now I have a question though. Do you think Vincent D'Onofrio and Law and Order: Criminal Intent should have meant Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin? Because I imagine they're both in New York.
100%. Like he should have been, and he could probably do both roles simultaneously and still be excellent at it. I feel like there should have been an episode where he takes down the Kingpin.
That's why I'm saying, because that's why I brought it up too. I think D'Onofrio could have pulled it off.
He could have. 100%, man. He's everything. He is great in every role he has portrayed. At least every role I've seen him in, which is Law and Order: Criminal Intent, Daredevil, and then Full Metal Jacket.
Yes. I hope they bring him back as Kingpin. That'd be great.
I don't know, man.
I doubt it, but
yeah, I honestly, out of everyone, I just hope they bring back Charlie Cox.
It's like if they bring back Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, at the bare minimum, I'd be happy.
Yeah, 100% agree. To
be honest, as big of a Daredevil fan I am, I still haven't seen that third season.
I tried. I got like 2 or 3 episodes in. I'm like, God, this is awful.
Yeah, my gauge of it based off of, and that's coming off of the fucking Defenders too. And the Defenders was a shit show.
That was a shit show. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I blame Iron Fist. It's all Iron Fist's fault.
100%.
But Anthony, is there anything else about Law and Order: Criminal Intent that catches your attention? I'm curious about the lead having a female nemesis. It's like, do they like lean it towards like it being like, oh, there's sexual tension here? Because that's what I imagine some stupid person would do.
There's not really like a sexual tension to it. It's more so of, if there is an attraction, it's more of an attraction of both of them having very tragic pasts. But it's not even like an attraction, like a romantic attraction. It's more like they're both damaged people, but he's just trying to bring her the fuck down and bring her to justice.
It reminds me of a book I read a while back called Love Sick by an author named Chelsea Kane. And it's kind of like a Hannibal Lecter style thing where the main detective is like this broken cop who tracked down this serial killer who happens to be a woman, and then throughout the course of the novel you learn that it's her doing a large scale manipulation so that she can kind of groom him into something for her, and she takes a romantic joy out of what she's doing to him,
right?
And this is all following what led to her arrest, which was her torturing him and removing organs.
Jesus.
So, when you said, oh, he has a female nemesis, I'm like, oh, is it like that?
It's more so like, did you ever watch Luther, the Idris
Yes.
Elba vehicle? It's more like his arch nemesis for like the first season, where it was
Alice.
Alice. Yeah, it's more so like that. Like, it's not really like an attraction, but they're both just damaged people and they're playing mental chess with one another. It's more so like that.
Huh.
Yeah.
I view Alice and Luther completely differently.
What do you mean?
I see it in part. I agree that it is in part, two damaged individuals trying to find some kind of companionship with another damaged individual. But I definitely feel like with Luther, they lean into the romance of it. There is like an implied romance. It's very weak, and usually it's aimed towards, whether she's manipulating him this week or not. But I feel like it.
I gotta disagree, man. She's a sociopath. She can't feel emotion, so ergo she can't feel romanticism. You know what I mean? So,
and I don't know your opinion since you're the professional.
Allegedly. So, allegedly. But outside of Law and Order: Criminal Intent, outside of those two games I'm playing, I've been playing a lot of Nintendo Switch. And by Nintendo Switch, I'm still going with Octopath Traveller, which we talked about at some point on this podcast, and you and I. That's
Very
still
early
my
on.
kind of in-between game. And what I classify as an in-between game is a game that you hop on just to do some like minor grinding to upgrade your levels, stuff like that, and then you just hop off. So you'll play it in spurts of like 10, 15 minutes every so often. And I've been doing some of that. And then I had a really sweet moment with my wife when we both played one of the Mario games the other night.
Ooh, which one?
That was fun. I don't know what it's not like Mario Party or Mario Kart. It's just like it's called like the new Super Mario Brothers or something like that.
My fiance and I played that ourselves, and she got frustrated with me.
Yeah, pretty much. We actually
Was
had
that a
really
similar
good time.
experience?
No. At first, Amanda was playing it by herself. Amanda, my wife, she was playing it by herself. She got frustrated after she died once. And then, like, later on in that day, we played together, and it actually went really smoothly. It was very sweet. And it made me feel really special because video games have always been my thing. And Amanda can't play video games really because she gets really bad motion sickness. But Mario, for some reason, I guess since it's kind of like a 2D platformer, but in 3D somehow, it doesn't get her that sick.
Yeah.
So we got to play for a little bit, and we got to share a common love, which is my love for video games, and it was very sweet. It was very tender.
Oh, I'm glad you guys got to have that moment.
Well, I'll be. But John, outside of that, that's all I have been participating in.
Well, I got one more thing.
Just one more thing.
Just one more thing. It's called a review.
Ooh.
Yeah. I talked last time we spoke, Anthony, post our Commanders in Crisis review, which, everybody go pre-order that shit if you haven't pre-ordered that shit.
Yes.
Seriously, go pre-order that shit.
Yes.
I spoke last week about Marvel's Avengers. And the video game. From developer Crystal Dynamics and publisher Square Enix. Crystal Dynamic is the crew behind the most recent batch of Tomb Raiders.
Yes.
And I don't exactly completely remember, the conversation about Avengers last week, but I think the summary is that at the time, Anthony had asked, if I felt the game was incomplete, which I don't necessarily completely agree with. But I do have gripes. I'm through the main campaign. In short, the reports that it is about 8 hours are correct if you plow through.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, so it's literally just you're gathering the Avengers again. The main campaign's literally called Reassembled,
Right.
and you're just getting everybody back onto the ship, as it were. Quite literally, because you're on a helicarrier as the main base for the Avengers, which gets very nice and spiffy by the end of the game. So that's something that appealed to me because it was just like, I get to rebuild, a headquarters. That's always something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. That is one aspect of video games that I've always enjoyed is base building, if you will. I don't think that's the technical term, but that's the term I've always used.
I think it's definitely appropriate in this circumstance because it starts on the ground post, the opening. The opening segment where the ship blows up and destroys San Francisco. But so you're gradually making it livable, and things improve throughout the game and ultimately become the best version of it. Post the campaign. I can break this down into two kind of aspects. The main campaign and the Avengers Initiative, which is the multiplayer stuff. Or the single player extra mission stuff. So campaign wise, I think it's standard superhero fare. So if you're familiar with the movies or the comics, you're probably going to see where it's going.
Right.
I think though what's important about it is that it is Kamala Khan's first ride, and meaning that it's the first big public exposure of that character beyond animation in the comics.
Sure.
And I think it shows that the new characters that are truly diverse, that come from a non-white background, really do have legs. And Miles Morales already proved that with Spider-Verse.
Oh,
this is the first time I think a character outside of a big one like Spider-Man is able to get some legs. And this is honestly really Kamala's story more than anything. It's Kamala rebuilding the Avengers.
And getting out of her uncle's shadow.
No.
Yeah, her uncle Shaka Khan.
Shaka
I'm just going to ham fist that joke every time.
Yeah, and Shaka Khan's a woman, not an uncle.
Okay, my mistake.
Oh my God.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Put some respect on her name. So that's I think the key thing I would say for people I think people should play the game because my opinion still stands from last time. Sure. You could honestly make a game out of any single one of these characters solo. The combat system is robust enough for each one to live individually. It just kind of depends on what you prefer. I honestly...
I would say I would prefer not to pay $60 for an 8-hour campaign.
No, I agree, and there still is more to come, DLC wise. I think what people are, what's unfair here, I think, is to compare it to something like, and I'm going to compare this game because they're within the same ballpark, but not the same like actual shared universe. I mean, the PS4 Spider-Man is the best comparison right now because that's probably closer to a 20 to 30 hour game if you're depending on how you play it. But that is designed for a single player experience. So there's going to be more effort into the single player stuff. The problem that I'm having with Avengers, and this brings together the campaign and the multiplayer stuff, is that this game is having trouble figuring out what it wants to focus on. Yes. Does it focus on being a single player experience? Does it focus on being a multiplayer experience? And it's kind of it decided to land in the middle of it, and that can be frustrating at times. Yeah. Because sometimes the single player missions are built to be played with multiple people, but it's not necessarily a requirement to. And I've been playing with the AI, and the AI for the most part has done all right because they're the Avengers that I've been building throughout playing this game. So right now I've gotten Captain America to level 50, which is the level cap, and I'm working on Thor now. So while I'm a lower powered Thor, I still have a higher powered, more robust Captain America to fill out my squad while I'm leveling up people. And I compared it to the first Destiny last week. The comparison I think still stands. They are definitely trying to create a communal experience. I just think people are so used to these types of games being a single player experience, and that's where a lot of people's frustrations are coming from. That's at least my perspective on on those comments, at least. Character-wise, everybody feels true to these characters. The performances are really good. And Kamala is the beating heart of it all.
Sure.
Without her, I think this game would have failed.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I mean, I haven't played it, but that's from all reports I've read, John, plus what we've talked about off air. I completely can concur with that statement.
I mean, it got my fiance to want to read Kamala's book. Yeah. That's what I think the chief takeaway is from this game. And I don't know if I could call my time with it finished, because I'm done with the main campaign, but once you're done with the main campaign, you can go to the multiplayer stuff, and that creates, a subsequent storyline that continues immediately after what happens with MODOK. MODOK gets replaced as leader of AIM. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And to be fair, that gets spoiled if you start the multiplayer stuff, and they warn you of that in advance. That what you're dealing in the multiplayer stuff is just the aftermath of the return of the Avengers and dealing with AIM as a corporate superpower and a political superpower, and just trying to dismantle that. So I feel like they're trying to do long form storytelling. They're trying to do a comic book as a video game. That's what it feels like. And we'll see what happens with the subsequent DLC characters. I imagine, added characters and added story missions. They certainly set themselves up for it.
Sure.
And I do think my opinion of last week still stands. Maybe they'll set it up so that you can experience an end game of your own. Who knows?
Possibly.
If it were me in charge of it, I would probably stay away from it because, this game has already been unfairly compared to the MCU because everybody just wants to play the MCU, and that's not feasibly possible. Because
you have literally 30 movies or so. Like that's kind of impossible and practical.
Almost 30 movies. Considering everything that they have planned. Over probably 40 actors who played the main characters. And if you want to accurately play an MCU video game, that means licensing their faces. That means having them come back to voice the parts, and that's way too much money. Way too much. I do feel that I am very frustrated with the game as a whole, though, because it does feel there are parts where it is glitchy. There's a lot of bugs. I'm dealing with a bug right now where I could not access the campaign mode through the main menu. It would just perpetually stay in the loading screen. I have to go through the multiplayer portal to get to the single player. I don't have to do that anymore per se because I'm done with the single player stuff. But that's a frustrating thing. I think they're going to fix it in the whatever update comes next. But that's been a touch frustrating. So, your points, Anthony, of the game being unfinished, from what you've heard, in some regards, accurate. But yeah. I'm very curious to see where this game is going to end up, in 3 months from now. Considering how fast they're releasing stuff, that's where I think the value of this game is probably going to come. They're definitely leaning on the microtransactions, though. And to be perfectly frank, I bit the bullet on a couple things. It was just there was one Captain America look that was the one I wanted, and there was no other way to get it beyond paying for it.
That's how they get you, man.
I know, and that's what's frustrating. It's just I would like to know whether it's not clear at times whether it's something that you can get by grinding or by paying in advance. And that's a point of frustration for me, not just with this game in general, but just games that involve microtransactions as a whole. Because my memory of Destiny, because I haven't played Destiny or Destiny 2 in a minute, is that eventually you can get enough by grinding, but if you pay to play a little bit more, you get more goodies.
Well, that was the whole thing with the Star Wars Battlefront 2 that
Yes.
came out a few years ago, where it's like essentially like if you wanted to upgrade your General Kenobi to look a certain way, a specific way,
or just get General Kenobi
yeah.
in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. It was you had to grind like a million hours or fork up like $10 or $5 or however much it was.
Or if you want to like,
currency.
or if you wanted to like get all of the stuff, you pay like $100 on top of a $60 game.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So, and to give Avengers a little bit more credit, they've said that the DLC is going to be added on for free,
Which is amazing. That's good.
Yeah, it's somewhat true in that it's going to be for free, but something that they do with the characters, they have these things. They have this tab called a challenge card. So daily, you get daily and weekly challenges, and if you you complete both, it unlocks things in the game. So it's outfits, nameplates, currency, special takedowns. So you can skip those if you have like a certain currency or you pay for that certain currency, and just skip having to do weeks and days of challenges.
Right.
For the DLC characters, so not the initial 6 that you start with, for every character that gets added on, you have to buy their challenge card. So some things are going to be locked behind a paywall. So if there is the leaked rumor on how many characters are to be added is about, I think, 15 or 16. So you're looking at maybe $10 for the challenge card for each of those characters. So maybe $150 on top of the game and whatever microtransactions you want to do. I mean, personally, I don't necessarily think it's 100% worth it. I mean, I think what I did was I just found the one look that I want, and that's it. I don't need anything else. I'm just sticking with the one and, going from there.
Yeah. But
I'm also an adult that has money at my discretion.
yeah, fair enough. But if you're not, and you're like, say, a 13 to 15-year-old kid who just really loves the Avengers and really wants to play a game with them and never heard of Ultimate Alliance and all of that fun stuff, so this is your first endeavor into that world via the vehicle of video games, now you have to pay $150 on top of the $60 that you already spent, or your parents already spent, or whatever have you. And now that's just shitty, man. That's just a shitty experience.
Yeah, and Anthony, you're touching on stuff that has been frustrating about microtransactions in general.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we've been dealing with this since the microtransaction model first became the prevalent model. And a lot of things have found great success in it. I mean, Fortnite is one, Destiny is another. That's why these games keep getting made. People keep buying. And as much as people want to keep crapping on this game, they're going to keep updating it. It's an MMO. It's an Avengers MMO. That's the long and the short of it. And that's what nobody seen from every criticism that you've told me about that I've seen online. That's one thing that everybody I think is ignoring, is that this I consider this an MMO in some ways.
Well, the biggest complaint, and you touched upon it, right, John, is that it has to decide if it's going to be pushing the MMO model or pushing the campaign single-player experience model. And it's got to choose at some point because it's so split like that. That's why people are giving it like a 6 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, is because it has to choose one or the other.
Yeah,
right?
so I think the telling factor is going to be what they come out with these DLCs in the next weeks and months ahead. I don't know exactly what how frequent the model is. I heard monthly. That could change. I know that they're updating at least every week. Every day there's new challenges, so there's already kind of the repayability. Plus it is fun. I mean I've been playing as Thor now that I've got Cap maxed out. And Chelsea would watch me every now and then, and she gets really entertained by the fact that you can just fly whenever you want. And that's a great appeal. And throwing the hammer feels like throwing the hammer of Thor. Throwing Cap shield feels like throwing Cap shield. It it does the job that it was intended to do, which is you get to embody the Avengers.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's the point, right? That's the entire point of why they even made this. Now, John, you mentioned a paywall.
yes.
And what I want to say about that paywall, John, is that one thing that's not behind a paywall is our weekly podcast for you, our loyal listeners. And speaking of you, our loyal listeners, I think it's around time, John, that we call it quitting time.
Yep.
And so you... Yep. And I think you have to send us off to where and how only you can.
More than happy to do that, my friend. Ladies, gentlemen, gentle folk, you have been listening to another episode of the Ludic Loungecast. I have been one of your co-hosts, John Soros. He has been Antonicus Gluteus Maximus IV, Anthony to his friends. We thank you for listening. And, as always, thank you for lounging. I almost did my Columbo sign.
Yeah, I was like, no, John, no, don't do it.
God damn it. But let me get in on that mic. Be sultry about it. Thank you for lounging.
Bye!
Good evening, friends from sunny Burbank, California. This is Johnny Carson on behalf of the Ludic Lounge. You have been listening to another episode of the Ludic Loungecast. If you would like to follow more, please follow the boys at Ludic Lounge or individually at Rojo Loco 44 for Antonicus and for John. It is at just underscore John underscore 0891. Or feel free to email boys at theludiclounge@gmail.com. Ed, it's time to go hit the hay. So, good night, folks.